All right, we're live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we're talking about something that's really good for crypto, the entire space as a whole, a major trend that's taking off and where I think it's going to be headed. All right, we're going to look at that. We're going to look at a lot of the news updates that have happened in this space. Again, we do these live streams Monday through Friday on this channel about 9:30 a.m. Central Time. Just subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. You'll find out about those whenever we go live. We're going to answer some of your questions and a lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, nothing I'm saying in these videos are designed to be financial advice, and there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. Like, just ignore them. I'll never give you my phone number or ask you to invest with me. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Highs, Bruno, Marco, see, I can't read this one. See, Bosco, Oleg, Developing Gardener, Wendy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So sometimes I glance past the names really quickly and can't pronounce them all, and I definitely can't pronounce the ones that aren't in English characters. Sorry about that. So let's jump in here. Let's talk about something that's really good for the crypto space as a whole. So there have been lots of trends that have been emerging in the crypto space this year that have been really good, really for the adoption of the technology itself. We've seen DeFi, we've seen NFTs, we've seen institutional participation in cryptocurrencies, buying Bitcoin, Ether, and others, right? But another trend that actually emerged this year is Bitcoin being recognized as legal tender by different nations, all right? And saying basically, hey, you can pay for things in your country with Bitcoin, all right? We saw El Salvador earlier this year. We tracked the entire process on this channel of it from moving from a bill to become a law, and actually now we have a new development. Let me just pull up my screen here. It's official that Panama has introduced a bill to recognize Bitcoin and Ethereum as payment methods. Okay, so this is a big deal because when the El Salvador news broke, we talked about how we didn't think this would be the last country to adopt something like this. Okay, and we already had other countries kind of on a speculative list of who might be next. Panama was one of them, and so now we see confirmation that this is actually moving to the status of being a bill, proposed through their government. And additionally, into Bitcoin, we see recognition of Ether as well. Okay, in addition to so we have a new crypto on the list that's adds to the arsenal of cryptos you can pay with compared to something like Bitcoin, which was the only currency that was approved by El Salvador. Okay, so we have other countries on the list right now that are somewhat speculative about so the next candidates that could adopt something like this. And of course, this is just a bill right now; has not officially become a law. But this is a trend. That's the whole important thing to understand is we're seeing, countries start to actually recognize cryptocurrencies as legal tender. And if this continues on, then this could be a major catalyst for adoption of cryptocurrencies as a whole, in addition to everything we've been talking about. Institutional participation in cryptocurrencies, DeFi, NFTs, gaming, Web3, all this stuff. But one of the reasons it's so impressive for countries is because this can quickly onboard a massive amount of people. Okay, we talk about institutional adoption of cryptocurrency being big because you can basically get large players into the space really quickly, and they have a lot more capital than individuals, right? But basically, when you onboard an entire country into crypto like this, you bring a ton of citizens into the game. But it also does something else of legitimizing crypto in a really meaningful way, okay, in a way that really didn't have until recently. So this is a big deal. And we're also seeing more on the El Salvador front, where, let's see here, El Salvador has actually purchased $21 million worth of Bitcoin and has become the first country to make it a legal currency. So we talked about that already. Basically, El Salvador is the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender, but we actually started to see El Salvador purchase a very large supply of Bitcoin. I mean, relatively speaking, right? We've seen private or publicly traded companies like Tesla buy $1.5 billion of Bitcoin, so kind of a difference in magnitude for sure, but it's still significant, okay? And we're seeing more about El Salvador and their actual adoption and holding of Bitcoin itself. So, that being said, this is bullish for the crypto space as a whole. It's also bullish for Ether. in particular, if it's now going to be recognized as a payment solution in a major country like this. And we're also seeing a lot of bullishness around ETH itself. Okay, of course, the cryptocurrency markets have taken a little bit tick back today. We can take a look at that here in a minute. But we did see a report actually come out from Standard Chartered that's actually more bullish on Bitcoin than Ether and has pretty high price prediction for Ether, the asset itself. Okay, so Standard Chartered is more bullish on Ether than Bitcoin with a $35,000 price prediction. Okay, so Standard Chartered is a British banking giant. Basically, they have a report on how they're more bullish than Bitcoin, or sorry, on Ether than Bitcoin. So I'm gonna close this pop-up here. The bank expects Bitcoin to increase up to 3x from its current levels, while it sees Ether going 10x from the current levels. But it, of course, says Ether carries more risk. And it basically almost always does when you have something has a higher upside. There's typically more risk associated with it. So, they're talking about their views about Ethereum being more like a financial market in which transactions like lending, insurance, and exchange can operate according to Standard Chartered's global research team led by, etc. Basically, they're just saying you can do more with Ether than you can with Bitcoin, just like we've been talking about a lot on this channel. And that's one of the big reasons for their higher price prediction, of course, than today. Compared to Bitcoin. All right, so let's actually check out the crypto markets right now. Kind of see what's going on there. Let's see here. Pull up my screen here. Let me pull up the trading chart. Okay, so let's see what actually happened to my moving averages. Let's turn them on here. All right, so we're seeing a little bit of dip across pretty much all markets at this point, with maybe the exception of Solana. So Bitcoin, we're now currently back down below $50,000. Ethereum, $3,646. Others, right? So let's just see here. Let me actually pull up my chart with a little more moving averages on it. So basically, if we're tracking what's happening here, like big picture, I don't think anything has fundamentally changed. I do think we have seen a little bit of leverage kind of creep back into the system that has added some froth and volatility to the majors for sure compared to where it was maybe a few weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, that it looks like a pretty scary red candle right here, but this is the kind of thing that tends to be a self-fulfilling prophecy in the short term. People who got to panic sell based on these little dips. So, like I said, I don't think anything's fundamentally changed here right now. I think some of this price volatility is noise. I think we're still bullish in terms of these big moving averages. So I'm not getting scared right now, put it that way. I've seen a lot of people putting McDonald's hats back on Twitter. Now that being said, smaller cap stuff that doesn't have a long-term bullish outlook, NFT projects that are illiquid, like that could be a different story. But in terms of the major overall crypto markets, fundamentally nothing has really changed in my mind. All right, let's see here. Of course, some people have been a little bit worried about crypto because we're starting to see some celebrity commentary. Of course, we saw Reese Witherspoon the other day talking about buying the first Ether. Here we see you're getting into the crypto game. You got any advice? And then we have people kind of throwing in their 2 cents. So I don't necessarily think that the celebrity participation is a massive top signal or anything like that. If we see huge celebrity participation, I mean, this is pretty big. How many followers does he have? You got 15 million followers. This is a lot of people. So anyways, if we see just like massive like celebrity participation, they're all euphoric or something like that, and the market's starting to mirror some of that euphoric activity, it could be a little bit of a top signal. But I think the big picture here is that crypto's gained so much adoption that the things that were absolutely top signals in the past, like the 2017 era, are not necessarily as big a top signals as they might be today. Now, to a different scale, maybe, but the markets are so much bigger, and there's so much more adoption. So got some bearishness in the chat for sure. Okay, let's see here. All right, so you guys are totally free to express your comments in the chat, but just don't spam the chat, or else I will mute you. What time does the deal end today? So it ends at midnight Central Time. Somebody, this Bitcoin is going to zero. Yeah, Bitcoin's not going to zero. Why is the overall market taking a nosedive right now? I don't think anybody has a strong answer to that question. Well, I guess the real answer is crypto markets are volatile, and so nosedives are inevitable in this market for sure. I think I've seen a little bit of froth lately. I think we've seen some leverage kind of creep back into the system. That can definitely be a factor. Okay, so let's look at a couple more things here. Let's actually check on the burn statistics. We looked at these yesterday. Actually, let's look at something else here. We talked about this, I believe, on our live stream yesterday or the day before, but I've actually got a video coming about this pretty soon, kind of overviewing some of the statistics on this to where you can compare different layer 2 scaling solutions, which I think is pretty cool. So you can track the total value locked in layer 2 scaling solutions. So right now we've crossed over $1 billion. We've had about a 20% increase in the last 7 days. So basically, this is tracking all the activity that's happening on layer 2s. And this war is really starting to heat up. And I think this space is really going to evolve over the next several months. Okay, and I think we're still going to have some significant adoption for layer 2s in 2021. We're starting to see some pretty impressive growth by Arbitrum for sure. Of course, you see that in terms of percentage change. It's really easy to have large percentage change when you're getting started because the total amount compared to where you came before is always much bigger in terms of percentage, but it's still impressive and how quickly this ecosystem is growing. So the ones definitely to watch out for in the short term are as to how Arbitrum develops compared to Optimism. Now definitely subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications down below to find out about that video. I'm going to compare all these and kind of give you the differences and like what's the difference between Arbitrum, what's the difference between Optimism, how can you sort of look at the trade-offs, how can you look at the risk summary of each and determine like what your preferred solution could be. Somebody says, is Polygon considered a layer 2? So that's a good question. So let's just not take my word for it. Let's actually look at the FAQ on their website here. They actually talk about it. So what exactly are L2s and why is Polygon not included? So I'm going to go with their explanation because I think it's pretty well written. So we had to draw the line somewhere. In the current version, we define L2 as a chain that fully or partially derives its security from L1 Ethereum so that users do not have to rely on the honesty of L2 validators for security of their funds. This is in line with the current view of the Ethereum Foundation on what Layer 2 scaling is. So you can actually look at the link from the Ethereum Foundation itself when they define Layer 2s, which you can see here. So the Ethereum.org website has actually gotten a lot better over the past, maybe a year or two. And they have some pretty significant explainers on their site that'll help you understand all this stuff. So you can see, how everything works and how they define L2s. So the whole idea here is something that has its own validators that aren't necessarily that aren't bound to the rules of L1 Ethereum in terms of how they act. That's more a side chain than something that actually sits on top of layer 1 and derives its security from layer 1, either wholly or partially. Somebody says, I don't understand why it crashes hard, to be honest. Well, if you just browse back to the chat within the last 15 minutes, and there's several people who are just kind of doom and gloom and think it's all over, that's why it crashes. Because lots of people think that and they paper hand, and that has a cascading effect. At least that's one significant reason. I'm planning a course on Solana development. Not right now. We might do some exploration of Solana on the channel, but I don't have any plans in the immediate future to launch a significant Solana training. Okay, so let's look at a couple more things here. We can also check on the burn statistics now. So, we're still seeing a ton of NFT drops. We're seeing a ton of activities, so we're still burning lots of ETH. Of course, looks like people are probably cashing out of some positions right now, but the gas fees are probably pretty high. Now that we're having this little bit of market panic, as we speak, let's actually look at the gas prices. Yeah, so gas prices are pretty high. I got a feeling some people are trying to offload some JPEGs or some volatile tokens, or maybe cash some of their ETH into stables. And we're seeing basically a bunch of deflationary blocks right now. So you can see we're burning 4.73 ETH per minute right now. Or over the past hour, no, we're burning almost 15 ETH per minute. Latest blocks, 7.9 ETH, 2.7. So any block that's north of 2 Ether is going to be deflationary. So basically, we are living through deflation right now because let's actually look at the ETH transfers. I think people are probably sending Ether to exchanges right now. Would be my guess. People are trying to get out of their JPEGs. They're trying to swap to hedge from volatility right now. That's my guess. So when this happens, we're seeing ETH basically get more valuable in terms of the supply. And if we were to see this during the proof of stake transition, then right now ETH would be negative 1.8%. deflation, 1.8 negative 1.8% inflation per year, which is 1.8% deflation per year. All right, so I'll answer a couple more questions here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and well, actually, let's see here. We got a good amount of people tuning in, so we'll try to answer a couple more questions. So should you buy the dip? So I'm not gonna give financial advice. What I think is happening with the cryptocurrency prices, like I said before, I think the cryptocurrency markets are volatile. I think a lot of what's happening right now is noise, and I don't think anything's fundamentally changed, and my mid to long-term outlook is still bullish. The short term, I don't know what's going to happen. Could we see some discounts in the short term or prices to correct down further? I think so. So that's a good question. So somebody says, is the course a good fit for someone with no coding experience and can only dedicate a couple hours a day? Like, can I realistically become a great blockchain developer? So it's a great question. So I've had people who have no experience go through the bootcamp program and get real world skills and actually get jobs and become blockchain developers. Now, if you only have a couple hours a day, people ask like, what's your timeline for that? You could do it in a relatively short amount of time, but you need a goal. You have to set yourself a goal so that you have something to work towards. If you only have a couple hours a day, I would set your long-term goal of being something like a year. You could do it a lot faster, especially if you crush through the material and you find that you're getting into it. If you have no coding experience, that's definitely the place to start. You work through that, and then as you go, you get to that point where you start building your own projects. Like once you've done a lot of the trainings, you go through and you just go through the steps. You go through the training, you build that first project, you start to build your own projects with unguided development. All right, that solidifies your skills, gives you those real world skills, and it's also going to give you experience that you can't get that you need to get outside the workplace in order to convince somebody to hire you. So you build your own project once you've learned the basics and the fundamentals. You're going to go through lots of pain through that process because it's going to be hard, but then that's where your skills really come to life, and then you use that project for a portfolio piece, and that portfolio, is your marketing sort of asset that you use when you go apply for jobs. And if you're going off and you're applying for jobs directly, like if you're just going to websites and applying for jobs, like sort of offensive strategy, then you want to apply to as many places as possible, because at the end of the day, not everybody's going to take a chance on you as a beginner, and you're more likely to find somebody who will the more places you apply. That's sort of the fastest track to getting from point A to point B. Somebody says no experience is kind of a good thing because you only learn what's in demand and what's needed right now. Yeah, that's true. So the part of the question is can you do that and become a good developer? You can do that and become a good enough developer to get started, because at the end of the day, everybody in their development career ends up on this path of self-learning and self-improvement and learning new things to stay sharp and keep their skills relevant. There's no way to escape that as a developer if you do it for more than like 3 to 5 years, okay? the whole goal is to learn enough to get that first job, and then you learn as you go on the job. That's what all developers really do anyway, no matter how good you get. Is Ethereum now proof of stake or not? It is not proof of stake right now. The problem is how to get noticed. Yes, it's a good question. So there's a couple different ways to get noticed. You can do like I was saying before and apply to as many places as possible and show them your portfolio. Okay, the other option is basically I put a video about this actually yesterday about how to basically market yourself, which is you create some sort of online presence that gives value to people so they can learn things that you know, and then you go to the watering holes where people are that would hire you. Go check out the video. So boot camps are worth it in 2021. Yes, of course it is. Is Solana on ETH network? No, Solana is its own network. All right, so let's just take a look here. So you definitely have a lot of panic going on here. So definitely that now is not the time to panic. Nobody ever makes good decisions when they're panicked. At the end of the day, like I said, nothing I'm saying in these videos is not any financial advice for you. But I can tell you what is pretty sound advice, which is basically if you're going to make some sort of decision, don't make it instantly and impulsively. Always wait before you make an emotional decision. That's really important. So that could basically look like going outside, taking a deep breath, taking a 15-minute walk before you make the decision. I mean, 15 minutes isn't really going to matter on the grand scheme of things, because at the end of the day, you don't want to make a hyper emotional decision that you're going to regret later. So good question here. So a few streams ago, I mentioned that he created his own NFT project, smart contract and all, amazing learning experience, suggestions on what one should build next. Yeah, it's a good question. So it depends on what your end goal is. If your end goal is to, change your career, then, you could continue, if you want to build something completely different, which you could build some sort of decentralized finance application. You could build some sort of automated market maker application from scratch, or you could take your NFT project. I'm not sure if you actually built like an NFT drop or if you just built the NFT. You could build a generative NFT. It depends on what your interests are. There's lots of different things. You could continue on with what you've already created and really flush it out more, or you could create a separate project, which I'd recommend probably something like DeFi related. Okay, let's see here. So can you use flash loans to trade NFTs? So basically, like, as long as the transactions are instant. So you can definitely use flash loans to acquire NFTs from like one place to another if like funds are sitting in one place, like a bridge loan, basically. But unless you can clearly arbitrage the NFT, then you can't really just like borrow the money and then go do something with it and then pay it back. It has to all be instant. All right, everybody, that's all I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so that more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fascinated with this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? Well, you can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I actually become a blockchain master step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with no coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time, thanks for watching.